Hello, I am Chris, a healthcare professional. Since 2010, I've had a huge amount of orthopaedic surgery. Fortunately, I was able to continue work from 2015 and moved to Wales as an associate in private practice. However, after all the surgery and relationship breakdowns, a previous GP had prescribed me antidepressants. After the move to Wales, my new GP changed my antidepressants. Plus, I was also taking a blend of opiate and other painkillers, which all affected my mood. I started my own practice in January 2020, then came COVID, and we weren't allowed to work. I'd taken out a large loan to fund the new clinic. With no income, I was in severe financial straits and became very anxious and depressed about my situation. When it was advised we could work again, I couldn't afford to reopen my clinic. This resulted in me in working as an associate in private practice on the Wirral. Unfortunately, my right hip began to hurt and I was referred for an orthopaedic consultation. The pain began to increase exponentially and I became more immobile and more depressed. My GP ordered my antidepressant medication again due to this. In 2022, I was referred to social services and it was decided an assessment was appropriate from the occupational therapy team who arranged domiciliary care. They also supported me to access the housing register as my landlord didn't want to make the necessary adaptations. The occupational therapist referred me to the Flintshire Local Voluntary Council to access social prescribing due to my financial difficulties. I now needed support to access food. It was the first time I heard of social prescribing. At that point I felt stuffed. I couldn't do anything, I couldn't go out easily, I had no money. I was at my wit's end. Speaking to Charlotte, she kindly referred me to the food bank by giving me a voucher. I was entitled to 4 vouchers which I fulfilled. I spoke to Charlotte on several occasions where we reviewed my situation. She also referred me to Well Fed, who offered me the food support for a further 8 weeks. This made me feel ecstatic to access nutritious food. I felt a lot better and cared for. There was a period of time after this where I didn't speak to the social prescribing team and had further surgery. This was reasonably successful. In 2024, I eventually moved to social housing from private rental as my current property was no longer suitable. My financial situation was improved substantially when I moved as I was no longer paying top-up fees for rent and care. I had a short period of domiciliary care in my new home, but this has now stopped as I am now considered re-enabled. I started attending the Men's Shed in Ellesmere Port in 2023 as I wanted to make a mud kitchen for my grandchildren. I took on a voluntary role as facilitator, then administrator. It was full-time, which gave me something to live for, something to get out for and keep my mind active. The shed then received funding for a part-time administrator, for which I applied. I unfortunately did not get the job. This coincided with the move to my new home, which was less than adequate. It needed lots of new items and a new bathroom too. I found myself becoming severely depressed and experienced the approach of the black cloud. I went to the GP in December 2024, who referred me for a face-to-face appointment with the FLVC social prescribing team. Coincidentally, I was really pleased that Charlotte became my social prescriber and we had established a good working relationship from our previous engagement in 2022. We arranged an appointment at the GP's surgery for a consultation. On the day of the appointment, I felt very low. The black cloud was omnipresent and I recognised I needed some help. Through talking to my GP and then with Charlotte, I noticed I needed major assistance. We spoke about my feelings and Charlotte provided me with options. I had explained that I tried to contact Parable previously and was unsuccessful. Charlotte offered me a referral which I accepted, and Parable has now contacted me to say that I'm now on their list for an appointment with a counsellor. Charlotte encouraged me to do things, for example, social opportunities, and provided me with helplines for my mental health. Financially, I was given alternative options for purchasing food and options of exercise as I'd like to lose some weight. Subsequently, following Charlotte's suggestion, my GP has now referred me to the National Exercise Referral Scheme for support. I was able to pay off the loan in January 2025, which has now stabilised my financial situation. At my meeting with Charlotte in February, I answered wellbeing questions. My answers were none of the time, all of the time, and some of the time. We agreed to revisit these when we met again. In March, I had a follow-up meeting with Charlotte where we reviewed these answers. I noticed that I had made significant improvement in most questions. However, I realised on reflection one of my initial responses was inaccurate. I have noticed that I am now thinking much more clearly. Today there is no cloud, and I am for the first time in several years feeling more positive about my future and hope to look for work soon. On reflection, as a senior healthcare professional for over 35 years, I had reached a point where I didn't really understand what was happening to me. With my GP's help, I was referred to social prescribing, and realistically it has made a huge change in my life. I respect the help I have been given immensely, as I couldn't have done this on my own, and I thank Charlotte personally for her dedication and care.